You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Cricket Podcast. It's playoff time in the IPL. There was drama. It wasn't in their hands for RCB, it was in Delhi's hand, it was in Pant's hands, and then he dropped the ball, it was crazy. And a bunch of other stuff happened, and then there's going to be playoffs, and we're going to preview all the playoffs, and I'm Jack, and I'm with Max. How you doing, Max?
Hello, yeah, very good, thank you. Pant literally dropped it, literally dropped the ball.
I don't know if that was the thing that changed the game, but you know,
it's nice for the narrative to say it was, isn't it?
Yeah, let's pretend that's
you just dropped the IPL, mate.
Exactly. I'm sure somebody said that to him. Maybe Ponting in the dressing room afterwards. I don't know. Max, we're going to talk about, to recap, we're going to go deep dive into Sunrisers Hyderabad v Punjab Kings yesterday.
Yeah. It's the important one.
Then we'll spend a couple of minutes on Delhi v Mumbai. And we'll do one-word answers on who we think will win each of the playoff matches. Does that sound good to you?
That sounds perfect, yeah.
Cool. Right, I'm glad we're on the same page. Before we get to that, what are the messages for the listeners?
Like this video on YouTube, please like it. I'll ask nicely. I won't just tell you. Please like this video, and please subscribe to the channel. Click the little bell and keep up with what we'll be doing over the next week or so with the playoffs in full swing. So there'll be plenty of action to chat about. Of course, head over to Twitter and Instagram at the Cricket Pod to keep up with us there. And we are sponsored, as always, by Serious Cricket. So to go and get some lovely cricket equipment, head over there, seriouscricket.co.uk. TCP22 is the code to get yourself 10 lovely percentage off of said equipment. And finally, patreon.com/cricketpod to support us there for all sorts of lovely extras.
All right, Max. Well, as I said, we'll start with Punjab Kings v Sunrisers Hyderabad. We'll do 25 minutes on them. Actually, we'll talk about that game really briefly. Well, we get this thing on YouTube where we click go live, and then it takes about 10 minutes for any kind of an audience to actually develop. So we may as well talk about the pointless game while nobody's watching. I don't think we can do 10 minutes on it though. Punjab beat Sunrisers Hyderabad. It was entirely meaningless. It was quite funny though that Sunrisers,
Lost again.
Yeah, completely spectacularly blew up. We had a question in from Ben on Twitter about Punjab. I think maybe we'll talk about both teams with respect to the future. He reckons that Punjab are one or two players away from being a pretty good side. To what extent do you agree or disagree with that statement?
I, having not seen that question, I was thinking about this game just before the show, and that was exactly the thought I had.
Ooh.
They are possibly, one or two players away from being contenders. And the player that sprang to mind for me was a man who's disappeared off the face of the planet from his usual yellow jersey. I think Punjab Kings need to discard some people, and then assuming Ravi Jadeja becomes available, just throw everything you've got at getting Jadeja. I mean, how good would that be in that lineup? Extra man there to just go ballistic.
Anyway, it would solve some of their problems, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It
maybe wouldn't solve the death bowling, but
it might
gives them
not.
An extra overseas slot.
Yeah,
do that,
but it would do. That is exactly what it would do. And that could work. I think there'll be a few teams that are probably thinking about Jadeja.
I'd go with roughly 9.
I think he could be hot property. I think there's definitely potential. If he does leave CSK, of course, they might resolve those issues.
It's pure conjecture.
But I think he'd almost certainly break the record.
I think so.
Auction price, yeah. That could work. I think Punjab probably the team they've got. I think before the tournament, I'm sure we said they were 4th or 5th. They were nearly good enough to make the playoffs, but not quite. Where have they actually finished? They finished 6th on net run rate behind Delhi. Let me just look. Yeah, same number of wins. 1 win away from 4th. I think they're very close to what I expected them to be. I think, which is quite a volatile team that occasionally look amazing, but have
Their last 5 fixtures were win, loss, win, loss,
yeah.
win. So.
I think they started off like that as well, didn't they? Win, loss,
Yeah.
win, loss, win, and yeah, they've got a big middle order problem, and their bowling is a bit shaky,
Erratic.
Yeah. I think you'd run that season 10 times, they probably make the playoffs 5 times. And had they, this season not literally thrown the ball into the outfield from a position of total supremacy, they could well have finished 8 and 6 and be above Royal Challengers Bangalore right now. They had another game, didn't they? What was their last match before this one? Was that against Delhi? And they were cruising to victory, and then somehow managed to
just completely imploded in the middle order.
Yeah, that's happened a few times. Rabada blew up against Rajasthan Royals, didn't he? It's these sorts of things have kind of plagued their season. Not a bad team, but
and like the expectedly dependable Agarwal, and to an extent Shikhar Dhawan, maybe to a lesser extent, he scored some runs, but not that quickly.
Yeah,
but Agarwal in particular has had an abysmal year with the bat, and that's not helped.
No, he's been diabolical. People want us to roast Kumble in the. I've heard Kumble's a very nice guy, so I'm not going to roast him. But I think there's a body of work now, isn't there, that suggests that maybe he is not, I don't know, the Arrigo Sacchi of T20 cricket. that perhaps, like, the average fan could do a better job of setting up the team. But
the average budding analyst.
The average, but there's some problems. That is a problem. Sunrisers Hyderabad. Last word on them for the season. Again, we might as well congratulate ourselves on the predictions we got kind of right. I think we said 7th, and they've actually finished 8th.
It's not far off, is it? We couldn't have expected Mumbai to be that bad.
No, or Chennai Super Kings, to be honest. I mean, like the Deepak Chahar injury has buggered them. Sunrisers, they had that little streak of wins where it looked like it worked out. Then they blew up. They similarly just like destroyed the blueprint. Went through a run that was awful. They had a captain similarly to Punjab again, contributed minus runs for the tournament.
Of course, they dropped him for this game, so they picked their strongest team.
I think he went home to have a child, didn't he?
Yeah, and also there's a test series coming up as well. So.
Yeah. I mean, about what I expected from them. It's the little run of games they went on. At least their fans got some excitement. It wasn't.
We got a nice bet out of it.
Yeah, we got a nice bet out of it.
All made for a good story.
I think they're much further away from being a good team than Punjab as well. To be honest,
yeah.
I don't know what batting. There might be some batting available in the auction next year, but I think they need to look at least 2 players come into that top 6. And I really, I don't. And they've got a bit of a problem with spin, haven't they? Now, to some extent, that's mitigated by Imran Malik kind of doing what an average spinner does, which is bowling 4 pretty hostile wicket-taking overs in the middle overs.
Yeah,
but there's a lot of money on Washington Sundar. I mean, if Jadeja does go, they should get rid of Washington Sundar and spend all of the Washington Sundar money on Jadeja, and they should probably get rid of.
That would be a big upgrade.
Somebody else as well.
Suchith.
Yes. Yeah, I mean Suchith, you're not saving loads of money there, are you? But
no.
Yeah, so there. That's
Kane Williamson saves Kane Williamson money. Plenty of money there.
Well, no, that's it. Yeah, get rid of those 2. Buy, I don't know, Tom Banton and Jadeja. You probably get Tom Banton for the airfare, and he'd do more than. I mean, he's not great, but he'd do more than Williamson.
Will Jacks next year, I reckon.
Don't make him captain.
Give Will Jacks a go.
Right, that's that game done, I think.
Yeah, they've got a blueprint though, haven't they, to work from? They've got something. They've got Tripathi, they've got Abhishek Sharma, both good players. It's not all doom and gloom. We'll just try and end on a slight positive note for them. Imran Malik, obviously, very exciting. Bhuvi made it through the season without breaking down. That's a positive. And then, you got a couple of guys up the order. Piran's had a decent season. He's not completely shit anymore. So there's something. They've got something to work from. But yeah, like you say, the availability of people to improve that team is going to be the question, isn't it?
Yeah, and it'll probably be poor, knowing they've picked. To be honest. Right, Saturday, this was the big game, wasn't it? It was Delhi Capitals v Mumbai Indians. We did a little bit of preview on it on the morning, on our last show, Max. We went through why Mumbai might not be completely out of it. They'd won 3 of the last 5 matches. They were playing Tim David. It looked like it could be good. We also thought that maybe Bumrah wouldn't play, which would be good for Delhi, and that they'd bring in a cat or a real wild card and bring in Arjun, definitely not good enough Tendulkar into the 11. But Mumbai, they didn't really. They actually, I mean, looking at the lineup, they didn't do many favours to Delhi. I think it was played
basically the same team as the last game, but with Brevis in for Stubbs, right?
Yeah, which isn't. Bearing in mind who they've got available, is pretty close, I think, to the best 11 players they could have put out there.
And they finally dropped. Well, I don't know if he's left now, isn't he, Karan Pollard? But he didn't play, which is another net positive for them. So
Delhi had to bat first, which wasn't ideal, and Bumrah and Daniel Sams were pretty good up top. Sam's got out his countryman Dave Warner, just 5 from 6 balls. I don't know if have you got a summary of this, because I'm sort of just doing it.
I haven't written one particularly. Okay, so we'll muddle through.
Let's go through the story beats. Yeah, so Dave Warner goes early. Then Mitch Marsh is out. First ball to Jasprit Bumrah, and then Bumrah bowls like a horrible bouncer to poor Prithvi Shaw, who was going along uncharacteristically slowly, but is definitely one of Delhi's most dangerous batsmen. Like completely did him with one of those bounces, just
followed him. It was like a homing pigeon.
Pigeon. Exactly, like
a bit faster than a homing pigeon.
Pigeons are pretty quick, right?
Maybe a missile would have been a better word.
Have you ever been
to use, but
hit by a pigeon?
No, I have.
Well, exactly. If you,
I don't know if it was a pigeon or a seagull.
If you had been hit, you wouldn't be alive to tell the tale. But
no, it was vicious. It was a vicious short ball.
It's 12.
Followed him down the leg side.
12 tourists a year die in London being hit by pigeons. You know that?
I did not know that. Yeah. Is that true? Yeah. Or have you just made that up?
I've made that up.
Of course you've made that up. What a ridiculous
Rishabh Pant comes in, the captain, and between him and Robin Powell, they steady the ship, don't they? And they get Delhi up to 125 with 4 overs to go, and you're thinking 165, 170 potentially on the cards here. And then Ramandeep Singh gets Pant out caught behind.
A vicious wide delivery.
A vicious wide delivery, yeah, and like one of those ones nobody can believe that he's actually out. Rodman Powell is then, his stumps are obliterated by Bumrah.
Castled.
Like it's
completely castled.
It's a complete. It's the stumps are in pain. They've been hit. And actually, up at Patel side, there's not really a huge kick on at the end. They finished on 159. After the game, I don't know if you saw this, all the interviews were like, it was much more than a 160 pitch. It was really difficult to bat on. I'm not entirely sure about that. I think a couple of the people that were talking about that. One was Rohit Sharma, 2 from 13 balls. So obviously he wants to tell a little bit of a narrative. And I can't remember the other one. Pant, I think, said that the pitch was maybe. But no, I've got the quote here. Pant said that he felt they were 5 to 10 runs short, which I think is probably true. When they were 125 at the end of the 16th over, they should have been thinking 170, and I think they may well have won. Anyway, how much of this innings do we want to talk about? Because I was just going to skip to Tim David.
I was going to say Tim David.
Yeah, Neville Brevis and Tilak Varma were there. What they did was they made the amount of runs that Tim David needed to get in not very much time smaller than it could otherwise have been.
And Ishan Kishan. Don't forget Ishan Kishan. He did some good work on Kuldeep at first. Yeah.
And then it was the sort of the Tim David show. We saw him hit the ball about as far as one could possibly hit it. Yesterday, or Saturday rather. It was kind of an exhibition in hitting the ball just far enough, wasn't it? It was, you must have
What a
hit,
tease.
what did he hit? He hit 4 sixes. I reckon 3 of them bounced 6 inches over the rope. It was, maybe he was out of power or something like that. I'm not exactly sure. He hits 34 from 11 balls. Remember when he was a bust about a month ago?
Yeah.
I mean, he single-handedly.
What were they thinking?
He single-handedly would probably have won them 2 more matches, and then they'd.
Yeah. Well, he basically single-handedly won them their previous game, which they then went on to completely blow. They spent a lot of money on him as well. So to have ditched him so early, and then obviously with hindsight, that's proven to be completely stupid. We said it was stupid, but it was doubly stupid given what we've seen. That's proven to be folly, and hopefully they'll learn from that next year. Hopefully Tim David will get a free pass to do whatever he likes, because he's been he's been one of the shining lights about the last month in the IPL, hasn't he? He's been phenomenal.
Yeah, he has been. He's been really good. And then Ramandeep finishes it off. I think the things to talk about here are Delhi blowing up, RCB celebrating wildly, and halfway through the big team watch along, all having to move to a different TV screen. I don't know if you saw that video.
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about that. And Rishabh Pant, let's start with this because it happened in the game. Rishabh Pant not reviewing the caught behind off Tim David. What was he thinking there, Max? Be Rishabh Pant and explain this to us.
I can't. I can't explain madness. The number of times we've said, like, you get 2 reviews in 20 overs, which is a lot of reviews, and you might as well use it on their most explosive match winner, even if you don't think it is out.
Yeah. When the game's on the line. Well, when your whole season is on the line. I don't remember at the time, but I think they still had 2 reviews as well. It was just like, what are you waiting for? Like, what's the next thing that's going to come along that would be better than that opportunity? And it all unravels, doesn't it? It's I don't know.
Maybe
Delhi.
he was still replaying the dropped catch in his mind. It was just he couldn't think of anything else.
Well, I mean, that was bad, wasn't it? You never see wicketkeepers drop that.
You shouldn't anyway.
Maybe
not professional ones.
Maybe the occasion got to him a little bit. I don't know. I mean,
that
seems unlikely, but
that horrendous beamer as well, wasn't there? Was that Khalil at the end? I can't remember, but,
yeah. Well, I mean, at that point, I think the game was gone. Was it 6 or 6?
It was, but it was sort of was a microcosm, wasn't it, of what Delhi had shown.
Quite a few misfields.
They crumbled. They crumbled under the pressure.
Mumbai win. I feel a bit sorry for Delhi. I don't think they're the 5th best team in this tournament. I think out of them and RCB, and I think we possibly said this on Saturday, Max, we thought RCB were the better team, and we'd rather have seen them in the playoffs. Yeah. But I don't think Delhi are necessarily worse than Lucknow or Rajasthan, or even Gujarat, to be honest.
No, I don't think so.
I think over the season they have been, but a lot of the reason they have been...
though, yeah.
A lot of the reason they have been is that they've had players in hospital, and... broken. They played Norkia when he wasn't fit. Some of the things I think the team they have. We were talking about Punjab. Of the teams the 3 teams we've talked about that have been eliminated, I would most like to be a Delhi fan. I think in a month's time. Now you'd be sad. You'd be like, that was a disaster. I can't believe it. But in a month's time, I'd be like, Delhi have got quite a good cricket team here. We're 1 win away, and realistically, we could have got that win a few times. So, I don't think there's that much for them to. I don't think there's so much. There's not too much self-flagellation they should do. They should move on and just accept they were unlucky this season. Your views?
I agree. Boringly, I'm afraid I don't have much of a counterpoint to that. The only thing I suppose you could argue that maybe it was kind of a risk going for Norkia, given that he was, injured. But you're not picking for one season, are you? You're picking for a few, and he will be hopefully next year fit and firing, and that'll be a boon. Pretty sure, hopefully, won't be in hospital. And I think Sarfraz Khan's had moments this year where he's looked quite promising as well. They've got Rovin Powell's been pretty good as a finisher. They've got loads of bowling options. They're a nicely rounded team. They've got star quality. David Warner's back. I think things are looking up, and maybe the Lord wasn't his lordly best this year either. So they've got individual performances to improve on, and I think they can be optimistic for the future if it's currently very depressed.
Yeah, and Rishabh Pant bounced back a little bit after a couple of years. I think he finished with a strike rate over 150 for the first time since 2019, maybe even 2018. It's been a little while. Average of 30 as well. That's pretty good going from a number 4. That's up there with the best in the tournament. So it was good to see him batting well, even if sometimes the captaincy was a little bit strange. to say the least.
He's not the only one to be to blame for that.
Yeah,
we've seen some odd decisions this year.
It sounds like Ponting will hang around as well, and I think he was talking about how Rishabh Pant will remain the captain, so they'll have some stability. Moving forward, it will it'll obviously be sad. RCB. So you didn't see this, Max?
No, I didn't.
They basically, the RCB have got quite a good YouTube social media team. They put up some quite good #PlayBold videos, and they had a big team watch along. They were obviously they're in like a nice hotel. They were in, I guess, the bar area. All the players and support staff watching it on a big screen. Kohli, by the way, like the most. You see those videos of football fans or whatever destroying their TV when their team lose the match. He was basically one of those.
What about the Manchester City fans destroying their own crossbar when they won the match? Did you see that?
Yeah. But Kohli was like one of those people. He was like jumping up and down like a 7-year-old watching their first ever Royal Rumble or whatever 7-year-olds get excited by. And then the TV went out, and Kohli's like, he can't believe it. He's in bare feet for some reason. I'm not sure why. He grabs his trainers and he just leads the team into the there's obviously a backup viewing area that he has. I mean, everyone else actually is reasonably relaxed for this. It's Kohli and like 2 other guys that I couldn't recognise getting up and like jumping up and down when there's a boundary or a 4 or Rishabh Pant gets out, and then like when the TV goes down, it's that instinctive decision making that probably makes him such a good batter. He knew exactly where the next TV option was. He grabbed his trainers and they went inside. And then there's like the obligatory mass team celebration, everyone jumping up and down and going wild. When they bowled the no ball, basically. I think they figured out that it was sort of over at that point. It was good, worth watching. Obviously for RCB, they've got out of jail a little bit. Do you think, from a mental perspective, that will liberate them, or do you think they partied too hard too early?
The thing is, they're not the first game up, are they? So they've got a hangover day to get over the exuberant scenes, and then after that subsided, they'll be able to look to their eliminator with excitement and optimism and a kind of, I think, a feeling of freedom. They've kind of got a free shot that they weren't expecting, haven't they? So I would feel liberated, I think. But whether that comes to pass when they actually head out onto the field will be another matter. But I for them, it's a case of Lucknow arguably missed out, and that was kind of their own fault to a degree, and the flip side is RCB have managed to sneak in. It's sort of like that football playoffs, championship playoffs thing you get, where so often you find the team who finished 6th in the league beats the team who finished 3rd in the league, despite the fact that one's been demonstrably proven to be better over the course of the season, because one team's just missed out on automatic promotion and is a little downhearted, and the other one's just snuck into the playoffs and has got a shot that they weren't expecting. So that maybe gives them a lift. And I think it'll be a pretty close contest. They're both good sides. I'd say RCB arguably slightly stronger. So I would perhaps back them.
Well, let's talk about the two playoff matches then, and then we'll wrap up this stream. So tomorrow we've got Gujarat v Rajasthan Royals. I always forget the name of this game. It's like, is it the qualifier?
The qualifier 1 is
Qualifier
the
1.
top v second.
Yeah,
then you've got
okay.
the eliminator is third v fourth, and then qualifier 2 is eliminator winner versus loser of the qualifier 1.
Cool. Yeah, well, I'm glad we got that nailed down. Qualifier, Gujarat Titans v Rajasthan Royals. They're off to a new venue. They're going to Kolkata to Eden Gardens for this. Now, I think traditionally speaking, Eden Gardens has been a slightly better ground to be a pace bowler than it has to be a spin. I don't know if that will factor into things at all. Where's your money? Gujarat v Rajasthan. What are you looking out for, Max?
It's given that it's going to be it's a new stadium, so you'd expect a fresh pitch. I like the idea of some runs here. I feel like we might see a nice score posted by the team batting first, and I really don't know where to lean with this one, because I really like Gujarat, but not for actual like logical cricketing reasons. They're just fun, aren't they?
Yeah.
And some of that fun has disappeared over the last few weeks. They've been a bit up and down, whether that's because they've taken the foot off the gas, having made it. But, their recent form hasn't been particularly good, has it?
Lost 3 out of the last 5.
Lost 3 out of the 3 out of the last 5. So it'll be an interesting one. I do quite fancy the Royals for this one. I don't know why. Just it's a gut thing.
I would probably say the Royals as well. I think there are a couple of areas that will be quite interesting in this match. Rajasthan, obviously, we know they're not a particularly deep batting side. They're stacked up top, and then they fade away a little bit. New surface, I think that will be a benefit to them. And I don't dislike Gujarat's opening bowlers. But I don't know if I'd say, in that matchup between the Rajasthan Royals top 4 and Mohammad Shami and maybe Hardik Pandya or somebody else, I'm thinking that I would back Butler and co on a fresh pitch. Where I think Gujarat will have a pretty big advantage, and this isn't really a huge secret, is that Rajasthan Royals don't have much death bowling. And as opposed to Rajasthan, Gujarat actually can bat a fair way down the order. They're not, not everybody on their team is Brian Lara or anything, but they've been sending in Tawatia at 7 and 8 in some matches. They've got
Rashid Khan's done a good job as well.
Rashid Khan has done an excellent job down the order
with his helicopters.
Yeah, so I think they've got at least 7 players that are quite dangerous, and at some point, somebody for Rajasthan is going to have to borrow the death. Now, in their last match, Obed McCoy looked pretty good on a new surface. I don't know if that will work quite as well. They've used Chahal as one of the 4 death overs in a few games. Will that work as well at Eden Gardens as it has elsewhere? Will they go back to Trent Bolt? I mean, Trent Bolt got murdered by Moeen Ali the other day. That can happen. Prasidh Krishna into the Test team. But that sort of gives you an indication about the type of bowler he is. He's not what you would consider to be an archetypal death specialist in T20 cricket. So I think there's something for players like Miller and Tawatia, excellent pace hitters to exploit at the end. Having said that, 1 to 11, I do think Rajasthan are better. I think their top 4 in particular is Saha, Gill, Wade, and Pandya isn't fantastic.
But I don't think would you pick any one of those ahead of the Rajasthan Royals top 4?
I think you'd have
Pandya.
You'd have Pandya in instead of one of Jaiswal and Padakal, I think.
Yeah,
but I don't think. I also don't think it's Pandya's sort of best position. I think it's a symptom of the team he's in that he's ended up batting there. I think Miller, Tawatia, and Rashid Khan versus Shimron Hetmeyer and 2 other people is a lot fairer. Shimron Hetmeyer has been a god this year, but I'd rather sort of have 3 guys that can score that quickly than just one guy.
Rather than putting all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, if that makes sense.
Law of averages.
Spin department's pretty close, isn't it? With Chahal coming up against Rashid Khan.
You got Ashwin, very canny.
Yeah, and Sai Kishore, who's come into the team. You know, they're
quite similar, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're quite similar in the way that their spin lineups work. With you got the wicket taking leg spinner with the variations, and the tight finger spinner to try and tie things down.
Yeah. So what I would probably say is that I think these have been the best 2 cricket teams over this season. Now, some of that's down to individual overperformance, maybe in the case of Tewatia and possibly Miller. Some of that's down to really good players playing really well, Butler and Chahal, for example, for Rajasthan. But I'm looking forward to this match. I think we are seeing the 2 best teams playing off this chance. I think I'd back Rajasthan to seal the automatic berth, though. I don't know if you disagree with that.
I do lean towards Rajasthan, but I suppose my concern for them is that they have been a little reliant on Butler runs wise. I mean, he leads, as we know, the runs charts by quite some distance, and Sanju Samson doesn't feature until 18th in the table, whereas there are three Gujarat batters between them, with one of those not even being Tewatia, who, as we all know, is been quite impressive at times, and Ridhima Saha's had a decent season as well, and he's only played 9 games compared to 14 of the rest, and he's in amongst them. So a little bit more, I suppose, in the way of sharing the load for Gujarat. But if Josh Butler performs, then I think Rajasthan win. I think that's the equation.
The other thing we probably should bear in mind, based on what we've just been told in the chat and what I've verified, is that there is rain about in Kolkata.
Yes, there is. Yeah.
There's a 50% chance of rain for the hours the game is on. So, yeah, normally that means you'll get play, you'll get something, but you could quite easily see a 10 over a side match or something like that, which I wouldn't want to call a 10 over a side match.
I think there's also there's a couple of hours of leeway they've got as well for the games, and they'll cut down the half-time break, but the Tires strategic timeouts remain at 2.5 minutes.
Well, we can't
unless it goes down to 5 overs a side, then they cut the timeouts. But there will be no cutting of the timeouts for obvious reasons.
Well, we wouldn't want to.
Yeah, there's a bit of leeway, but it will be interesting. A bit of a stop-start nature, a bit of rain, that could be interesting. I mean, who do you think that benefits? Again, I mean, it would be the side that's got the deeper hitting lineup, I suppose.
Well, I think
who's
probably
more suited to a T10.
I think Rajasthan would be better. I don't think it's the deeper hitting lineup. I think it's who can score quickest from ball one. And we know Butler hasn't actually done it too much this year, but I think his 10 ball strike rate last year was like 140. Hetmeyer, pretty good at going from ball one. Sanju Samson, it feels like every time he comes in, he hits the first ball for 6. So I'd probably go with them. Devdutt Padikkal, he'll have to drop out of the team or go down the order. We can't be having him stinking the place up. But on the other side, Saha, Gill, Wade, they're not really 6 hitters, and they don't necessarily go fast early. Hardik Pandya, Tewatia, Rashid Khan, Miller, they're capable, but I would rather be Rajasthan in a hit off, I think.
Yeah.
So that's what I say there. Anyway, shall we move on to the Eliminator? The
Eliminator, indeed.
So it's the reprieved, or kind of reprieved, Royal Challengers Bangalore.
The relieved
Royal Challengers Bangalore versus the Lucknow Supergiants. It's a contest between a team that have quite consistently beaten the teams below them in the table. That's Lucknow Supergiants. And a team who on paper look like they've got a very good 1 to 11 with a lot of balance, and all the stuff that you want, all the good stuff that you want in a T20 side. What are your initial thoughts on the two lineups and where you think that match might head, Max?
I'm pro RCB.
You're pro
for this
RCB,
one.
yeah.
I'm pro RCB. I just their lineup is just like on paper. It's just good. It's just solidly good. And we've seen KL Rahul return to ball eating mode lately. So we'll see whether he can get back to the challenger for the orange cap that we had. But I just think throughout the side, I prefer what Rajasthan have not Rajasthan Royal Challengers. So the Royals got Royals on the brain. RCB prefer what they've got. The Kohli may be coming into form just at the right time. Who's to say, like Glenn Maxwell again? Is there going to be rain about for this game as well? I think the beginning of the week was troublesome, wasn't it? So whether Wednesday's also in line for a bit of an issue. You've got Glenn Maxwell and DK, who two of the hardest hitting players in the tournament this year and of all time. That's a real bonus, and I feel like if RCB perform to the levels that they can make it too difficult for Lucknow. And again, fresh pitches. They've got pace in that Lucknow lineup, but will Alzari Joseph or Kamira or whoever plays be effective on those pitches, or will all the likes of Faf and co dispatch them? I think it's a similar sort of concept to the first game.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Lucknow have been sort of that they. I'm struggling to sort of say why I think they're good, but they have been solidly good in most of their matches. They're not even as a big Lucknow fan. I say this: they're not the sexiest cricket team of all time. Like they rely quite heavily on a few players to do quite a lot of the stuff. But those players have been coming through, and they've sort of been lucky here and there with the emergence of players like Mohsin Khan. I don't know if I in a sense I'd have RCB. I think are better. Lucknow are a little bit like a pound shop RCB, except with King Legend and De Kock instead of Faf and Kohli. And I do think King Legend and De Kock are quite serious upgrades on both of those players. Faf maybe less so.
De Kock's performance the other day was ridiculous.
Yeah, Faf maybe less so, but King Legend is certainly up there as the best opener in the tournament, ball eating or not, occasional ball eating or not. Like I think he adds a lot of value, and De Kock is say the other day very good. And then you go down the order and you're like, oh, I can kind of see that player does mirror the player that RCB have, except that the RCB player I'd rather have that guy in my team. And what I think this match will come down to, at least to some extent, is whether RCB can pick up an early wicket or two. Obviously they've got some decent options up top, haven't they? Hazelwood's probably the first name you think of there. If they can,
is Siraj injured, or was he just rested for the?
Who knows? I mean, he hasn't had a great season, has he? So maybe they were trying something else. It didn't. What did the guy who came in went for 40, didn't he? I've forgotten his name. Siddharth Kaul, yeah. So I think they'll probably go back to Siraj. I'd trust the more experienced player if I were them. And maybe he'll like Eden Gardens more. Who knows? But I think that's the whole game in my mind. Sort of comes down to, can they get rid of De Kock and King Legend before one of them takes the game away, or one of them does something good? Because both of those players are worth 2 of any of their other players.
Oh, they've scored 1,000 runs between them.
Yeah, I think we worked this out, didn't we? For Guerrilla Cricket, they scored 2,300 runs, and 1,000 of them had been scored. Yes. But yeah, knock another 100. Knock another 100 off for extras. So the rest of the team has scored 1,200 runs, and the main 2 have
basically half.
Yeah, which shows you there's a little bit of an imbalance. And that's not to say that Deepak Huda's bad or
Well, if you want to add Deepak Hood to the equation, it gets even more ridiculous. He scored 406, so you're getting on to.
This is and this is why I think this is the battle. I don't see. I mean, Badoni's had his moments, but I don't see him like rescuing a team or anything like that. It's Evan Lewis. He's okay, isn't he? Didn't he have that game against CSK? Again, he's not bad. He's not bad. Jason Holder down the order. It's the same sort of thing. Krunal Pandya can play. Krunal Pandya's been batting for them. That tells you enough. I think that.
I think he was injured in the last game though. Is he back?
He might be.
Could be a loss.
Yeah, and Stoyne. I mean, talk about poor man's Maxwell. There's a lot of that going on. So I think,
guy though. Good guy, the Stoyne.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Look,
you'd like to see him win.
And this is sort of why even though Lucknow aren't particularly sexy, they do have some characters that you'd like to see do quite well. Stoyne is probably first among equals there, but I in my mind, Royal Challengers Bangalore are a better T20 team. They have weaknesses, wholly questionable. I think at times, they've been prone to the odd collapse. They have a good attacking spinner who goes for a lot of runs, so that. But there's a really interesting stat, isn't there, in T20 cricket, that if you win the battle of the spinners, i.e. you hit the other team spinners for more runs, it's a really good indicator that you're going to win the match. So it is possible to do that to Hasaranga.
He's only gone at 7.4.
Still
not
quite
terrible.
I think it's still quite high.
I mean,
maybe
Rashid Khan's 6.9, so that's not miles off.
That's
higher, but Rashid Khan's like but he's like one of the hardest spinners to hit in.
Well, Narine is going at under 6. Ashwin's going at near 6. I'd imagine that there are quite a few spinners. Now the wickets.
Yeah. Well, Hasaranga's been cheaper than Chahal, so
okay. Well, the wickets do help. Chahal has bowled at the death, so I would be taking Chahal. I think Hasaranga is somebody you can hit if you're set.
He can go wrong.
Yeah. But he's not. I mean, if we're talking about Hasaranga as a potential weakness, and it's not really a problem, is it?
No.
Siraj is probably an actual weak. Yeah. Anyway, so I think that'll be it. I'm going to go with RCB. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think RCB, but I'll say Lucknow for the fun.
Okay. All right. Well,
Rahul to cock to do the biz with the bat.
Cool. Well, Matt, shall we wrap up this show? I want to do a podcast after Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, and actually no. So we can do that. We know we're not going to be doing one on Friday evening. We know it'll be Saturday morning, don't we? Our time.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Sunday evening, I presume you'll be doing.
Hopefully.
Wednesday evening, I presume you'll be doing.
I'm not. Don't know. That's up to Ross.
Well, hopefully Ross can sort that out, and tomorrow, hopefully, I can. One. So we should be able to do one for each game. But check our Twitter at the Cricket Pod, more info, and check the show notes for other messages and sponsorship and discount opportunities, and our Patreon, patreon.com/thecricketpod. Support us directly. Right, say goodbye, Max.
Goodbye.